Hello everyone, welcome to Achievers IAS classes. Today we are here to discuss the current events on December 1st, 2017. Let's start with the national issues of the day, with the first one being on Cyclone Oki. Cyclone Oki, as you know, has hit several parts of Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Karnataka. As we know, cyclones are divided into tropical cyclones and temperate cyclones. Cyclone Oki is a tropical cyclone. The picture which we are seeing right now shows a typical tropical cyclone. Here, the eye of the cyclone is the region of calm and the wall of the cyclone is the region of intense rainfall associated with fast moving winds. UPSC so far has asked about what are cyclones, the different types of cyclones, as well as how the cyclones are named. The Hindu article today is specifically talking about the nomenclature of tropical cyclones. The tropical cyclones are named by the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific. According to the nomenclature system, countries worldwide are divided into 9 regions based on the water body they are bordering. Each country in a particular region suggests name for the cyclone, which is in turn associated with a particular cyclone on a rotation basis. The cyclone Oki originates in the North Indian Ocean region, which has 8 countries, namely Bangladesh, India, Maldives, Myanmar, Oman, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Thailand. The present name Oki was suggested by Bangladesh, which means an eye in Bengali language. A question might arise, why should the cyclones be named? Cyclones are named to provide ease of communication for various activities like weather forecasting, public warnings and various disaster management activities. The second issue in news today is the state unit of BJP in Tripura has demanded imposition of the president rule, alleging that the law and order situation in the state has deteriorated. The provisions of the constitution regarding imposition of the president's rule, as we know, are Article 356 and Article 365. Article 356 states that President's rule can be imposed in a state when the governance of the state have not been carried out in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. While Article 365 says that President's rule can be imposed in a state when the state government fails to give effect to any of the directions given by the Union government. In this regard, the Supreme Court has laid down the conditions which make it satisfactory for the imposition of the President's rule in the S.R. Bommai case, where it mandates the governor to carry out a floor test to determine the legitimacy of the state government, before which a state government cannot be dismissed or the state legislature cannot be dissolved. Moving on to the next topic, which is the ongoing tussle between the central government and the Union Territory of Delhi. The centre has argued that the executive power over the national capital rests solely with the Union government, while the Delhi government argues that the Lieutenant Governor is not a viceroy and is bound by the advice given by the Council of Ministers of the Delhi government. UPSC has previously asked in the year 2016 about the special provisions given to the National Capital Territory of Delhi. Delhi has certain special provisions by virtue of Article 239A and 239AB, because of which the Union Territory of Delhi is regarded as the National Capital Territory of Delhi and its administrator known as the Lieutenant Governor. Although Delhi has a legislative assembly and can make laws on the state list and concurrent list, it has no power to make laws on public order, land and police, and it provides that the Council of Ministers for Delhi shall not exceed 10% of the total number of members in the assembly. The important point to note here is the Council of Ministers of National Capital Territory Delhi are appointed by the President and not by the governors, as done with respect to other states. Let's move on to the next issue, that is the Gorkhaland movement. The Gorkha Janmukti Morcha leader has recently claimed in the Supreme Court that the West Bengal government has taken various steps to finish the separate Gorkhaland movement. Let's just briefly see what the issue is all about. The Gorkhas are the Nepali speaking people who majorly reside in the northern areas of West Bengal that comprises of Darjeeling, Kalimpong and other hilly district areas. These Nepali speaking people are different from the ethnic Bengalis in their cultural practices, including the language spoken. The demand for a separate Gorkhaland dates back to the Morley Minto era of 1907. The immediate trigger for the demand of a separate Gorkhaland is due to the imposition of Bengali by the West Bengal government in the school curriculum up to the class 9. However, the long-standing issues like differences in ethnicity, culture, language, and the poor administration of the Gorkhaland territorial administration has resulted in the crisis and has resulted in the recent intense agitations. Okay, let's move on to the next issue, which is the rejuvenation of River Ganga. The governments in the past have launched various initiatives to clean the Ganga river. The present government has launched the National Mission for Clean Ganga for the same. Today's news is talking about Union Minister Nitin Gadkari, who has called for international investment and technological sharing to realize the government's dream of a clean Ganga. Let's just see the important provisions under the National Mission for Clean Ganga. The National Mission for Clean Ganga focuses on pollution abatement by intercepting the polluted water, diversion and treatment with various bioremediation and water treatment technologies. It also lays emphasis on the beautification of ghats, involvement of people living on the banks of the river, as well as the grassroots level institutions of panchayat and urban local bodies in its implementation. Here we have to remember the recent Supreme Court ruling granting River Yamuna the status of a living entity. With that in mind, let's move on to the next issue, that is the impact of demonetization and GST on Indian economic growth. The Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has recently remarked that the Indian economy is on path to faster growth based on the numbers of Q2 of 2017 and has said that the negative impact of demonetization and GST has worn off. He has further highlighted the fact that the GDP has grown at the rate of 6.3% in the second quarter with robust expansion in manufacturing and electricity production. The core sector growth has remained unchanged as highlighted by the latest figures. The various concerns raised by economists are regarding to the center's financial health, where the fiscal deficit of the government has risen. The fiscal deficit indicates the debt burden of the government, while the revenue deficit indicates the difference between revenues accrued by the government and the revenue expenditures. And as we all know, the government intends to keep the fiscal deficit at 3.2% of the GDP, which might be overshot looking at the revenue deficit of the current year. Let's move on to the next topic, which is interlinked to the current article. According to the latest figures of October, the growth momentum in the cement, steel and refinery industries have slowed down, which has brought down the core sector growth to 4.7%. UPSC has time and again asked questions regarding the index of industrial production and the 8 core industries which constitute 40% of the total weightage in the index of industrial production. Let's just see what are these 8 core industries, which are the coal, crude oil, natural gas, refinery products, fertilizer, steel, cement and electricity. Among this, electricity has the highest weightage, and this question too was asked previously in UPSC prelims. Moving on now, the center is all set to announce the mid-term review of the foreign trade policy 2015 to 2020. The focus of the review is on small and medium enterprises, which are also labor-intensive segments of the economy. The review comes at a time when economists have highlighted data of the shrink in exports mainly due to the liquidity crunch faced by small and medium enterprises due to the rollout of GST. Let's just see the salient features of the foreign trade policy 2015 to 2020. The policy seeks to increase India's share of global exports by doubling the value of Indian exports from $450 billion to $900 billion by the year 2019-20. Also aims at integration of foreign trade with the government's flagship schemes of Make in India and Digital India initiative. The new foreign trade policy also consolidates the previous export incentive schemes, which were numerous, into two umbrella schemes, that is the merchandise exports from India scheme and the services exports from India scheme. The former dealing with the exports of goods, while the latter dealing with the export of services. This is in line with the government efforts to improve the ease of doing business. And also the duty scripts, which are the incentives offered to the exporters, have been made fully transferable, which means the incentives offered for export and the tax liability of the manufacturer due to custom duty on imports can be used to offset each other. We'll cover this in detail once the details of the review are out. The next issue in news today is the Chinese stance on the Doklam issue. The Chinese military has said that it will maintain its forces near Doklam during winter this year. This is a cause of concern to India because till the current year, both the countries used to withdraw their troops during the harsh winters. But China has decided to keep its troops in place, causing anxiety both in India as well as Bhutan. What is the strategic significance of the Doklam area? Let's just see it through a map. The Doklam area is at the tri-junction of China, Bhutan and India. As we can see from the map, it is close to the Siliguri corridor or the Chicken Neck, which is the narrow path connecting North India with Northeast India. And it is important because suppose a war were to break out between India and China, then the Chinese could easily cut off India's access to Northeast, resulting in great territorial, economic and human losses. And the current issue arose when China decided to build a road in the Doklam Plateau, which is contested area between Bhutan and China. And India decided to support Bhutan in its cause. The long-term solution to this crisis involves continuous diplomatic engagement between the Indian, Chinese as well as the Bhutanese government, as any escalation of the issue is not favorable to any of these countries. As we discussed the Doklam issue, the President has recently visited Mizoram and has laid emphasis on the role of Mizoram in the government's act. The President highlighted the focus of center's Act-East policy is at providing access to new markets for the state. In line with the broader objective of the Act-East policy, which aims to promote economic, cultural and strategic integration in the Asia-Pacific region. To realize this aim, he also highlighted the major infrastructural deficit in the region and the ways to plug these infrastructural deficit, that is through highways, that is sharing of information, highways, that is construction of greater number of roads, airways, railways, waterways and etc. The other issues in news today which are important from the examination perspective is the preventive medicine for AIDS launched in the Sonagachi district of West Bengal and the positive results of the same, and the other one being the NGT, which has sought comments from various stakeholders on the pollution caused by the industrial and mining activities in Singrauli and Sonbhadra district of Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. The NGT is empowered to hear all civil cases pertaining to the implementation of various environmental protection and conservation laws, namely the Prevention of Water Pollution Act, the Forest Conservation Act, the Air Pollution Prevention and Control Act, the Environment Protection Act, the Public Liability Insurance Act and the Biological Diversity Act. UPSC might give any of these in the options and ask you to decide which of the following laws are not implemented by the NGT. With this, we conclude today's news analysis. Thank you. Have a nice day.